What would you think if I told you that deep within the feminine psyche, nestled beneath layers of conditioning, societal expectation, and personal history, lies a force so potent, so primal, that civilization itself has conspired to tame it? This is not the curated, palatable femininity sold in magazines or the domesticated affection of romantic comedies. This is an energy that ancient myths tried to capture in their goddesses of creation and destruction, Lilith, Kali, Persephone. It is the raw, untamed current of feminine sexual energy, an essence that is less about the act of sex and more about the fundamental pulse of life, creation, and chaos itself. For centuries, this knowledge has been deemed forbidden. Not by some clandestine council, but by the slow, grinding pressure of a world built upon logic, order, and the masculine principle of logos. This energy, the feminine Eros, is relational, intuitive, and wildly unpredictable. It does not operate on linear timelines or respect rigid structures. It is the wisdom of the body, the intuition of the soul, and the terrifying, beautiful truth of cyclical nature, of birth, death, and rebirth. Its suppression was not an act of malice, but of fear. Fear of its power to dissolve boundaries, to challenge the ego, and to confront man not with a reflection of his strength, but with the vast, oceanic mystery of his own unconscious, his own soul. And you, have you ever felt its stirrings within you? A sudden surge of creativity, a profound intuition you couldn't explain, a sovereign self-possession that asked for no one's permission. This is the whisper of the forbidden knowledge, a call to remember a power you were born with but taught to forget. This force is the dark soil from which all new life springs. It is the chaos that precedes creation, the silence that holds the symphony. While the masculine principle, logos, seeks to build, to define, to categorize and conquer, the feminine principle, Eros, seeks to relate, to connect, to merge, and to feel. One builds the cathedral, the other consecrates the space within it, filling it with an invisible but palpable presence. A woman who is disconnected from this core energy lives in a state of perpetual psychic drought. She may achieve, succeed, and build a life that is perfect on paper, yet feel a profound and nameless emptiness. She operates solely from the masculine pole within her, honoring structure over flow, and logic over the deep, often illogical, wisdom of her own body. Reclaiming this energy is not about rejecting the masculine, but about achieving a sacred inner balance. It is the journey of descending from the brightly lit boardroom of the conscious mind into the moonlit, wild gardens of the unconscious. It is here, in this fertile darkness, that she finds the roots of her true power, a power that does not seek to dominate, but to magnetize, a power that does not shout, but resonates with a frequency that can either build worlds or shatter them. Have you been living in the light for so long that you've forgotten the wisdom that only speaks in the dark? The journey to reclaim this energy is a journey into the shadow. The shadow, as Carl Jung described, is the repository of all that we have repressed and disowned about ourselves. For the modern woman, the shadow often holds her aggression, her ambition, her authentic rage, and most profoundly, her raw, untamed sexuality. She was taught to be the good girl, the nurturer, the peacekeeper. She was taught that her worth was conditional, tied to her ability to be pleasant, accommodating, and selfless. Her primal, erotic nature was deemed dangerous, sinful, something to be hidden away, even from herself. To embrace this energy, you must be willing to meet the parts of yourself you were taught to despise. You must face the inner witch, the wild woman, the devouring mother. These are not literal evils, they are archetypal energies that hold immense power. The witch holds the power of transformation and boundary. The wild woman holds instinct and freedom. The devouring mother holds the fierce, unconditional love that is not afraid to destroy what harms her children, including a life that is suffocating her own soul. This shadow work is not a one-time event, it is a courageous, ongoing process of turning towards your own darkness with curiosity and compassion, integrating its potent medicine back into the totality of your being. It is the alchemical process of turning psychic lead into gold. When a woman begins this sacred work of integration, something remarkable happens. She doesn't become louder or more aggressive in the conventional sense. Instead, she becomes resonant. Her presence begins to carry a certain weight, a gravitas. And it is this resonance that has a profound, often bewildering, effect on men. This is where the dynamic of the anima comes into play. The anima is the unconscious feminine aspect within a man's psyche. It is the archetype of life, relationship, and emotion, often shaped by his earliest experiences with his mother and other significant female figures. For many men in a hypermasculine world, the anima is deeply repressed, a forgotten country within their own soul. So when he encounters a woman who is not repressing her feminine essence, a woman who embodies the life force, the Eros, that he has disowned in himself, he is both mesmerized and terrified. He is not just seeing her. He is seeing a living, breathing symbol of his own lost soul. Onto her, he projects the entirety of his unconscious feminine world, his longing for motherly comfort, his idealized image of the perfect lover, his fear of emotional chaos, and his deepest spiritual aspirations. You become the screen upon which he plays the movie of his own inner world. This projection is the source of that intoxicating, almost supernatural chemistry that feels like fate. He sees her and feels an instant recognition, a sense of coming home. But he is not recognizing her, he is recognizing the missing part of himself. An uninitiated man, one who is unconscious of his own inner workings, will be utterly captivated by this. He will feel that she is the source of his vitality, the answer to a question he never knew he was asking. This is the stage of idealization, where he places her on a pedestal so high it reaches the heavens. He sees her as a goddess, a muse, an angel. She is perfect, flawless, the embodiment of all that is good and beautiful in the world. But this pedestal is a cage, gilded and beautiful, but a cage nonetheless. She is not loved for who she truly is, and all her human complexity, but for what she represents to him. She is a symbol, not a person. And her task, should she choose this path of awareness, is to resist the profound temptation to believe in the illusion of this pedestal. Do you recognize this pattern? The feeling of being worshipped, only to sense the fragile, conditional nature of that worship? The quiet dread that the slightest misstep will send you tumbling down? The fall is inevitable, because no human woman can bear the weight of a man's projected soul. The moment she displays a trait that contradicts his idealized image, an expression of anger, a need for solitude, a different opinion, a moment of weakness, the projection shatters. The goddess falls from the pedestal and lands in the pit. The same energy he once worshipped, he now demonizes. The muse becomes the witch. The angel becomes the temptress. Her mystique is now manipulation, her depth is now unstable emotional chaos, her sexual energy is now a destructive force. He feels betrayed, not by her, but by the failure of his own fantasy. His reaction is a desperate attempt by his ego to regain control in the face of the overwhelming power of the unconscious, which she so potently activated. He will try to control her, shame her, shrink her back down into a manageable size, or he will flee. He runs not from her, but from the terrifying, exhilarating, and demanding work of integrating his own anima. He runs from the call to his own individuation. This is the tragic cycle of the femme fatale archetype. She is not inherently destructive, but becomes a catalyst for destruction in the man who is not ready to face himself. The woman on this path of awakening will experience this dynamic repeatedly until she learns the crucial lesson: his reaction is not about her. It is a mirror reflecting his own inner state of being. Here, The wisdom of the ancient Stoics becomes an invaluable shield and guide. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." The empowered woman learns to cultivate an inner citadel, a fortress of self-worth and understanding that is impervious to the projections of others. She observes his adoration and his subsequent condemnation with a calm, detached awareness. She understands that both are sides of the same counterfeit coin. She practices the Stoic art of separating external events from her internal judgment of them. His idealization is not a measure of her divinity, and his devaluation is not a proof of her deficiency. They are simply data, information about his level of consciousness and his relationship with his own inner world. This is not a cold, unfeeling detachment, but a radical act of self-preservation and wisdom. It is the understanding that her emotional equilibrium cannot be outsourced. Have you been giving away the keys to your inner peace, allowing the fleeting opinions of others to become the architects of your emotional reality? This emotional sovereignty is the ultimate prize of her inner work. She ceases to be a participant in his psychic drama and becomes a neutral, compassionate observer. She realizes that her worth is not a fluctuating stock price dependent on the market of male approval. It is an intrinsic, unchangeable constant. This is the essence of true self-love, not a narcissistic preoccupation with oneself, but a deep, unshakable foundation of acceptance. This allows her to engage with men from a place of wholeness, not need. The desperate, anxious energy of pick-me is replaced by a serene, grounded presence that communicates, "I am already whole." You are welcome to share in this wholeness, but you are not required to complete it. This shift is seismic. It fundamentally alters the energetic field around her. The men who are drawn to the damsel in distress archetype, the fixer-uppers who need a project to feel powerful, are no longer magnetized to her. They find no purchase, no wound to latch onto. Instead, she begins to attract a different caliber of man, one who is on his own path of individuation, one who is not looking for a screen to project his fantasies upon, but a sovereign partner to walk beside. But there is a caution here, a shadow side to this journey. A woman who unearths this potent sexual energy without doing the corresponding work of healing her own traumas and integrating her own shadow can wield it unconsciously or, worse, maliciously. She becomes the archetype of the siren, using her magnetic power not for creation, but for control. Her Eros energy is co-opted by her ego. She becomes addicted to the validation she receives from male attention, using it to soothe the deep wounds of feeling worthless or unseen. She learns to master the art of triggering the anima projection in men, drawing them in, only to feed on their devotion. This is not power, it is a profound expression of pain. She is just as much a prisoner as the men she captivates, trapped in a cycle of seeking external validation to fill an internal void. True power is never power over another. It is the power that radiates from a centered, authentic, and integrated self. It doesn't need to take, it simply is. It is the difference between a bonfire that burns erratically, consuming everything around it for fuel, and the sun, which burns from its own core, giving light and warmth freely, without depletion. The authentic embodiment of this energy is subtle, yet unmistakable. It is not found in a particular style of dress or a flirtatious technique. It is the way a woman inhabits her own body with unapologetic presence. It is the quiet confidence in her own intuition, even when it defies logic. It is the freedom in her laughter, the grace in her movements, the depth in her gaze that suggests she has journeyed to hell and back and is no longer afraid of the dark. This woman is deeply connected to her creative life force. Whether she is painting, building a business, cultivating a garden, or raising a child, she is channeling this Eros energy into something tangible. She creates not for applause, but for the sheer joy of the act itself. She has learned to mother herself, to provide the comfort, safety, and approval she once sought from others. Her sensuality is not a performance for the male gaze, it is her own private conversation with life. It is the pleasure she takes in the taste of good food, the feeling of sunlight on her skin, the sound of music that moves her soul. She is anchored in her senses, grounded in the reality of her own physical experience. This is the woman who has finally come home to herself. This homecoming is the essence of Jung's concept of individuation. It is the lifelong process of becoming the person you were always meant to be, of differentiating your true self from the collective masks and parental interjections you have worn. For a woman, this process is inextricably linked to reclaiming this forbidden feminine energy. It is about integrating the archetypes of maiden, mother, queen, and crone within her own psyche. She honors the maiden's wonder and vulnerability, the mother's capacity to nurture and create, the queen's ability to lead and hold sovereignty over her own domain, and the crone's wisdom to see beyond illusions and accept the cycles of life and death. She is no longer fragmented, playing a role, but is a fully integrated whole. This integration gives her a profound sense of inner stability. She becomes her own source. She doesn't need a man to be her rock, she is the mountain. She doesn't need him to be her hero, she is the author of her own story. This is the woman who can love a man deeply and fiercely, not because she needs him to survive, but because his presence is a beautiful addition to a life that is already rich and full. The man who is ready for such a woman experiences her presence not as a threat to his ego, but as an invitation to his own soul. Her integrated feminine energy doesn't seek to castrate his masculinity, but to call it into its highest expression. She inspires him to move beyond the rigid armor of his persona and connect with his own depths, his own anima. Her wholeness mirrors back to him the possibility of his own. He is not being asked to worship a goddess on a pedestal, but to meet an equal in the messy, beautiful, and sacred dance of life. This is the alchemical union, the hieros gamos or sacred marriage, that mystics and poets have spoken of for centuries. It is first and foremost an internal process, the union of the masculine and feminine within one's own soul. Only then can it be healthily mirrored in an external relationship. A relationship between two individuated people is not a desperate clinging of two halves, but a resonant synergy of two wholes. It is a partnership dedicated not just to mutual comfort, but to mutual growth and the relentless pursuit of truth. It is a conscious relationship, and it is the rarest and most precious of human experiences. This path requires courage of the highest order. It will demand that you walk away from situations and people that feel safe and familiar but are ultimately stifling your soul. It will demand that you sit with excruciating loneliness, learning to find companionship in your own being. It will demand, as the Stoic philosopher Seneca advised, that you associate with those who will make a better man of you, or in this case, a more authentic woman. You must curate your life with intention, protecting your energy as your most valuable resource. This means letting go of the need to be liked by everyone. It means disappointing people. It means being misunderstood. The woman who walks the path of individuation will inevitably be called selfish, difficult, or intimidating by those who are invested in her staying small and predictable. You must learn to see these labels not as indictments, but as affirmations that you are finally breaking free from the cages of collective expectation. Your loyalty is no longer to the tribe, but to the truth of your own soul. This is the lonely, sacred, and ultimately liberating work of becoming yourself. Think of your life force, this erotic, creative energy, as a powerful river. For years, you may have been taught to dam it up, to divert its flow into small, acceptable channels, fearing its raw power would flood the village. The work is not to destroy the dam in one explosive act, but to learn how to open the floodgates with conscious intent. You learn to channel that immense power not into destruction, but into irrigating the arid landscapes of your own life, bringing forth new growth, new ideas, new ways of being. You realize this energy was never the enemy. The true enemy was the fear of it. As you become a more masterful steward of this inner river, you learn to trust its currents. You know when to surrender to its flow and when to steer your vessel with purpose. You are no longer at war with your own nature. There is a deep peace that comes from this alignment, a sense of rightness that is independent of any external outcome. You are in harmony with the Tao, the natural order of the universe, because you are in harmony with yourself. Your life ceases to be a frantic struggle and becomes a dance, a co-creation with life itself. Ultimately, the forbidden knowledge is this: your sexual, creative energy is your direct line to the divine. It is the life of the universe expressing itself through you. To suppress it is to live a half-life. To reclaim it is to become a co-creator with existence. The effect this has on men is merely a secondary phenomenon, a ripple in the pond created by the stone of your own self-realization. To focus on the ripple is to miss the point. The point is the stone. The point is your return to the unshakable center of your own being. From this center, you can engage with the world with an open heart and a strong spine. You do not need to grasp, to cling, to manipulate. You are connected to the infinite source within. You are no longer starving for love, so you can give it freely. You are no longer terrified of loss, so you can engage with life fully. This is freedom. This is the quiet, unshakable power that comes not from seeking, but from being. The woman who has undertaken this journey is a force of nature. She is as gentle as the spring rain and as fierce as a wildfire. She has integrated her light and her darkness, her strength and her vulnerability. She no longer looks outside of herself for a king, because she has built her own kingdom within. She has learned the Stoic truth that the only thing she truly controls is her own mind, her own choices, her own responses. Everything else is beyond her domain. This realization does not make her passive, it makes her powerful. It frees up an immense amount of energy that was previously wasted on trying to control the uncontrollable. She invests this energy back into her own growth, her own joy, her own purpose. She finds that the universe does not reward her neediness, but it rises to meet her authenticity. The chase ends. The striving ceases. In the quiet stillness of her self-possession, she becomes a magnet for the experiences, people, and love that are in true alignment with her soul. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.